I'm here with Helen Sheppard, 6 times BAFTA-nominated BBC director, who's here to tell us a little bit about the do's and don'ts of working in TV, how you can get into TV, what do you expect, and all that sort of malarkey. So, Helen, nice to see you.
Hello.
First of all, how long have you been working in television?
Probably about 25 years.
Really?
Yeah, 25 years.
Goodness, you started when
Roughly.
you were very young.
Obviously. Yeah, no, I started when the first independent, there was the first independent company to come out of the BBC and make independent programmes was done by a lady called Cynthia Felgate. I wrote her a letter and she gave me a job.
Okay.
And from then on, and what she said to me, what do you want to be when you're 29? I said, I'd like to make children's television programmes. She said, well, we'll see what you can do. And I started to work for her, and I got the help of lots of producers, and then it sort of took off from there.
So you kind of just went straight to the BBC, first job out of uni or...
I guess, well, straight from, I did a degree in performing arts, and then straight into what was Felgate Productions, which was a company that wasn't in the BBC.
But
and
it was a spin-off.
It was a spin-off,
Okay.
and I think that's what made that's what meant I could sort of rise through the ranks much quicker. As she used to say, if you were at the BBC, you'd be stuck at the BBC in a low-level job. But I got the chance to become a director pretty quickly.
And do you think it's changed vastly now for actually starting off as director, not just director, but actually for performers as well? Has it changed an awful lot, or is it still as easy sometimes as writing a letter to a person in a small production company and off you go?
I think you can be lucky and write a letter to the right person at the right time, and you can follow it up and you can make the phone calls. I think there are a lot more media courses now, which there weren't. There were no media courses particularly. It was a very new thing. There were quite a few performing drama schools and performing arts courses, but I think because the lady that I worked for, she was interested in finding people who had a performance background to go into television, because she said, I can train you in the television aspects, I can't train you in that love of performance and creativity. And that's what she was interested in.
Okay. And all those new courses like the performing arts degrees and media and television, do you think it's essential to have that? Or if you don't have it and you have the dream of being in television, I'm talking more presenting because obviously that's what we deal with.
Yeah.
Is that going to hold you back, or do you think actually anybody, if you've got an expertise, anybody who has the passion and drive can do it, can make it?
I think anyone who has the passion and drive and potentially other skills as well can do it. And obviously now we've got YouTube, we've got all these online platforms, and I think a lot of people are coming from that. So they're able to film themselves. You can film yourself on your phone. You don't need a professional camera. So I think there's a lot more opportunity for people to just. And in some ways, I think that's almost better, doing short courses. That cost a little less, so you're not stuck in a degree for 3 years where the technology is going to change so much over those 3 years. That's not saying not to do it, but I think it's almost better to do short courses, build up your skill and build up your passion. So if you're really interested in animals, that's a great thing to have. If you're a great French speaker, that's a great thing to have. Rather than spending 3 long years on a degree necessarily.
So that you could have an expertise in anything. You could, for example, I don't know, be a UFO expert or something, and go in off the back of that.
You could go off the back of that. You could do that. You can be a maths expert now and get onto Countdown and be a presenter or something. So it doesn't have to be in anything specific. So in some ways, you better to go and do a degree in the thing you love, and then use that in your television presenting. Because as I do believe, you can be taught to present if you've got the basic sort of skill and passion to do so.
That's interesting. How important is it to have the fundamental skills and talent with being able, the technical side, if you like, of being able to work a studio, knowing the lingo on set, knowing how to use talkback, working to time, all those things. For you, a director, when you are auditioning, when you have got presenters or talent, as you might call it, on set, how important is it for those people to be able to do the job? or can they just be an expert and then that's enough?
Where do I begin? They've got to have something that you really like. And that doesn't necessarily mean to be those skills. I mean, often it's great if they have got those skills, particularly if you need someone to do a live job. You can't just take somebody who hasn't and then bung them into a live environment. But I'm more interested in the essence of a person. So have they got that passion and that drive? Do they inspire me? Am I going to want to watch them? So it's that phrase that they use is, do they come through the glass? Do they really work within the camera? And then I would say, can I teach them those skills? Now, if I think, oh, well, they're great, they look great on camera, they're coming through, but they're no way going to learn those skills, then it's harder to put them into certain environments, television environments, particularly live or as live or...
So turning up with those skills is a distinct advantage.
Distinct advantage. Yeah, it is a distinct advantage because if you've got all that lovely personality and you come with the skills, well, who's not going to give you the job?
Yeah. No, of course. So when it comes to actually approaching people like yourself or production companies, the BBC, obviously that's everybody's dream almost, I think, is, oh yeah, we're aiming for the BBC. It's the biggest one in the UK. Or is it UK or world, is it? Or
it's probably got
a good standing
reputation throughout the world.
So it is like a target,
so.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
How do we do it? How do we approach it? Do we just put a dear sir, madam, just fancy being on? Dear sir, madam, I want to make a UFO TV show.
Probably.
Probably
not.
No?
Probably not, Brian.
How do we do it?
How do you do it? I think you've got to, you've got to watch a lot of television. You've got to know what the BBC makes. You've got to know whether that's made by an independent or whether it's made by the BBC. You've got to have watched it, so you know something of that programme. You've got to know a person. You've got to find a person on those credits that you can write to and say why you think you'd be good at it. And there's no point in writing if you're writing to a programme that's just totally not something you're interested in and not something you're passionate about. So you've got to have an interest in it, but then find the person and preferably phone up. I think email, the trouble with email, everyone can bin it, so dump it. So write a letter that maybe sits on their desk, that's different. Maybe try and call them. Or maybe try and call their assistant or their secretary and say, would it be possible to have a meeting? I mean, be daring. Be really daring, because the people that are the people that get the jobs. Don't just sit on your backside thinking, well, I'll send a few emails, because that isn't going to work.
I must admit, when I used to be a presenter and I would be sat there and thinking that very thing, I think, I don't want to really annoy anybody, especially not the BBC. And I never actually sent anything in the end because of the fear of annoying them. And actually, it's kind of like, well, what does that achieve? You don't get anything from that, so you might as well, if you annoy somebody, you annoy them, tough.
Yeah.
But how much is too much, though? I mean, if I wrote you every single day for 3 months, would you start thinking, that's a bit too much?
That might be irritating.
Okay.
Yeah, so, maybe once a month, keep me in touch. See what the first initial response is. Obviously, if I don't reply, there's a message been sent there. But if there's a sort of reply and an interest, maybe keep me in touch with what you're doing once every month or something, as I do get. And that means that person just comes to the top of your pile. So if something comes up, I mean, if I like somebody, I'll pass them on to the relevant people. And there's several people that have therefore got into an audition trail through that, and then they haven't been successful. Well, after that, don't write to me, write to those people that you auditioned with. So, in other words, be careful how you get annoying. Because once you've sent someone in the right direction and they've made those contacts, then go with those new contacts. Don't keep coming back necessarily to me.
Okay.
Is what I would say. But what's the worst that can happen? People ignore you or they say no. And unless you've tried, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
That's my view.
Absolutely. So be brave.
Be brave.
Get stuck in and go for it.
Be brave but not irritated.
Yes. Difficult for some of us. Helen, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Super talking to you. And yeah, you're with us like once every month or 2 months or something, working with us here at TV Training. So passing all your words of wisdom on to the guys who come and join us. Thanks again. That's it from us.